My claim that I'm responding to is that U.S. politicians use exploitative methods in order to get elected and create inaccurate and disproportional representation of the people. My opponent's secondary claims is using gerrymandering and the use of almost limitless funds of corporations through the use of super PACs. So my response to his claim is, I propose that U.S. politicians do not use exploitative methods in order to get elected. So my response to his first claim, well, to his first secondary claim, is that he says that 7% was higher than, Republicans was 7% higher than the Democrats in some states, yet Republicans took 76% more House seats. So my opponent uses the word yet, and since there were more Republicans, shouldn't there be like more of a percentage difference than the Democrats? So that was one of my challenges against his evidence. And then he also states that he mentions the shape of the districts and that it's not really relevant to how people vote. So my counterclaim is voters, if not politicians, want more competition. So according to Monitor's editorial board, in California, voters overwhelmingly backed a ballot initiative that requires a new independent commission to use expanded mapping powers for designating voting districts for the House of Representatives. In Florida, voters strongly favored new standards and redistricting. The areas must be compact and take into account existing cities, counties, and geographical borders. That's important because fair mapping means creating districts that are contiguous and compact, equal and united. So my challenge against his secondary claim is that, well, he says that super PACs, well, he talks about super PACs, but he doesn't really elaborate on, like, give examples. All he really did was just give a definition. So my counterclaim is that most of the PAC's money is always favoring one side. For example, the Energy and Natural Resource PAC is contributing $33,999,499. There are 90 PACs in this division. $8,466,872 are going to the Democrats. That's about 25%. And $25,502,627 are going to the Republicans. That's 75%. So there's really a huge difference there. So in conclusion, I think that gerrymandering and the use of super PACs are methods that should not be used to get politicians elected because it creates an inaccurate and disproportional representation of the people.
All right, the advocate's points are labeled. You make a counterclaim, but it's not really explained how that counterclaim is is going to be supported. And what's really strange is at the end of the argument, it doesn't sound like you're making a counterclaim. It sounds like you're trying to make an argument that better supports the advocate's original claim. And I don't understand that at all. That makes no sense. On your first point, where you're responding to the disproportionate amount of votes that are gotten or slots that are picked up based on the registration, you say, well, it seems like it should be proportionally more to the Republicans in those places where they outnumber. That's fine. But then you simply ask a question, so shouldn't it have been an even greater difference if there was a problem? Well, I don't know how big the difference was. You need to remind us what the advocate said the difference was, and then you need to tell us why that difference isn't all of that important, and it really does reflect minor differences between the voting blocks that are going on there. You could use, for instance, a comparison to a lot of other procedures that are used, like in the Electoral College. Even if you win the state by one vote, most states give all of the votes to one candidate. So that's just the way the system is set up. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is unfair. Inherently, it just means that that's the set of rules that people are playing under. Tell us why that set of rules is wrong. And the advocate doesn't do that. That's the kind of argument I think that you need to make, that the advocate doesn't tell us what's wrong with that set of rules. You also kind of suggest it's not quite a minor repair. You're arguing that we do have ways in which these sorts of issues are being addressed, which, by the way, inadvertently acknowledges that some places see this as being a problem. California and Florida have this fair mapping policy, apparently. If fair mapping is designed to accomplish the minimization of the thing that the advocate's talking about, well, that's pretty good. That's a good response there, showing that it's effective, and maybe even talking about what the evidence of it was that the advocate used to show that it was ineffective, I think is what's missing here. Excuse me. On the second point, on the super PACs, you basically say that the advocate only defines what a super PAC is and doesn't explain what the impact is. And okay, I'm willing to go along with that. But then you turn around and argue that the super PACs spend their money disproportionately for one group or another, which sounds like it would feed the advocate's argument that there is some disproportionate influence that this kind of organization has. I'm not sure why you told us what the difference was, except that they fund both sides, which I think would have been a better argument here to say, look, the super PACs end up funding both sides. That they prefer one or the other usually reflects their preferences on policies, not the desire for control, for instance. I think that would have been maybe a good way to go with that argument. And as I said at the end, it really feels like the last thing that you're saying is actually a clearer statement than the advocate had of what their proposition really is, which doesn't make much sense. So you need to have a little bit clearer position in regard to what the advocate's asking us to believe.